Wow. Oh, wait, I don't.
It is assembled around an amazing personality. And this podcast that you're about to listen to is one of the highest energy centers of the available known universe. This person has lifted themselves out of the most insane situations and created an incredible, incredible impact in her world. And the discussion does not get bogged down in division or any of those things. It's just this rip-roaring ride through the personality and divine energetic resonance of this amazing person. I can't wait for you to hear this show.
Yeah. So get ready to ride with our guest, Barby Ingle. Subscribe, leave comments. We appreciate you listening. We're very, very grateful. Very grateful for people like Barby in the world. And support Compton Cowboys and Blast and drink adrenochrome cola. And here we go.
Sis, hallo?
Blijven.
Stuur zeker wegen dem.
Wil je iets niet, joh?
Two outlaws on the lam, taking the back roads through America.
You can't drink enough coffee for this show.
And now it's time for Monday Madness with the Moped Outlaws, Greg and Marc.
And we're live with another ride on the Moped Outlaws. And here today we're with very special guest, Barby Ingle, a resident and public servant of the state of Arizona. And we just learned that we will not have any nicknames for Barby. She is Barby through and through, and is also known in the world as a partner with Ken. So Barby and Ken are out in the world helping people. And welcome.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you, Greg. I'm glad to be here. And no joke, my husband's real name is Ken and my real name is Barby. It makes us Ken and Barbie.
Yeah, love that.
That's beautiful. What did you think of the movie?
I did not see the movie. We got invited to the premiere here in Arizona, and we said we live the real life, so we don't need to go to the movie. And we just haven't had time to go and see it. Maybe we should have gone to the premiere, but we didn't know what it was going to be like. But Ken gets, if I wasn't Ken, I'd be a 10 or something like that. People say some weird saying to him from the movie.
Yeah.
Or they'll say, you're Knuff. Knuff.
Yeah.
Enough. So.
And do you two have children?
No. Barbie doesn't have children. I have endometriosis, and it prevented me from being able to physically have children. And I have medical conditions that I did have a pet dog named Tusi, and I gave her up for adoption because I couldn't take care of her like I wanted, like with long walks and all those fun things that dogs should have. So I figured I probably shouldn't get a child because I need to take care of myself first. And I would want to give that child more than I would give my dog, and I couldn't do that right.
So for people who are just listening, you're referring to the chronic pain that you've lived with for 21 years, I believe?
Yep, 22 years. September 26th was the anniversary, so now it's 22 years. And there's a rare disease called algoneurodystrophy that I live with, and that causes nerve pain, as if someone put lighter fluid in me, caught me on fire, and it's just pulsing through my body. I also have loss of muscle and bone, and all of the reflexes in my body are haywire. So processing food can be challenging. I have to be very careful of what I eat. And I lost my gallbladder, my appendix. I had a full hysterectomy. They told me I was going to have 26 inches of my intestines cut out because 24 inches died. 2 heart valves went bad. Wow. But I'm up. I'm living life and doing it and finding ways to work through the challenges and unique treatments through genetic testing and pharmacogenomics and stem cell therapy.
That's awesome. So you retain hope. That
I have hope. I'm a cheerleader of hope. People say like my glass is half empty, and it's it's half full, depending on who you are and how you look at it. My glass is always full. The part you can't see is my hope, but I know it's there.
That's great.
Wow. So what level of stem cell treatments do you use? Are you using patches? Are you using injections? How is that working for you?
So what I did was I did adipose stem cells using my own stem cells. And the first time I did it 2 times. The first time I did it, the doctor said it will not hurt. They lied. Everything hurts me. So I should have known better. But I got 28 lidocaine shots through my abdomen, and I could still feel everything. And they had already cut me open. I was screaming. And then they took a lidocaine and put it into my abdomen directly. Turns out with my pharmacogenomics, lidocaine doesn't work for me. So for most people, you wouldn't feel a thing. For me, I felt everything. They took it out of my fat, they spin it, clean it all up, and then they give me back my stem cells, which are about 50 million stem cells. And I use a portacath in my chest. So they just hooked me up to an IV. First place it went was my heart. Then it went through my whole body. And within 24 hours, my stomach and intestines were healed. Wow. They were literally talking about cutting out 26 inches of my intestines. And in 7 days, my heart valves were completely fixed, and cardiac ischemia was barely showing a trace.
Wow.
So I don't recommend stem cells from plants. I don't recommend stem cells from other people. I know people that have tried and had complications, including blindness, and heard of people that died from it. And so I would say stem cells with your own cells are good. Stem cells with other people's cells, not so good.
Got it. You talked about dietary restrictions and diet. What's working for you?
I did a microbiome test by the company Viome, but there's many tests out there that you can use. I just looked at them and felt most comfortable with Viome. They sent me a little kit in the mail. I pooped, I scooped, I put it in the little vial and sent it in. Someone gets paid to deal with poop.
Yes, they do. I hope they're paid well.
And a few weeks later, I received my results, and they gave me over 70 pages of results. I have 8 superfoods. I try to stick to my superfoods, the ones I like anyway. And so I have a very limited diet. And then they gave me caution foods, which was the majority of the foods for me. I've seen other people that got like pages of foods that are good for them. For me, it was like sunflower seeds, eggs, quinoa, and bacon's not good. I can't process pork. I had a whole bunch of don't eat these at all costs, including pork, which I love bacon. So it was so hard. But I tried to stick to those, and it's hard. It's hard when you go out for like social events or gatherings and everybody's eating around you, and you're like, oh, I brought mine with me. It's a hard-boiled egg. Yeah. and eating something totally different than everybody else, or just not eating at all. And I try to just talk to people instead of eating. And then people go, oh, you need to eat. You didn't eat. Oh yeah, I ate over there. I'm good. Or I ate before I came, or I'm leaving here, going to another event and eating there. So the social aspect of eating has been changed, definitely.
So I got to ask about chocolate.
Oh, yes. My doctor, actually my neurodentist, he ordered 1 piece of dark chocolate a day.
So you get to have chocolate?
I get to have dark chocolate. And he ordered, yes, 1 piece a day. So,
beautiful. And how do you celebrate on your birthday?
I celebrate my birthday for a whole month. So, I do a project called Nervember to raise awareness about diseases that involve nerve pain during the month of November, wearing orange. And I do it not through food. I celebrate through living life. I also, for celebration of living life, I do that all year round. I drink 2 sodas a day. I don't drink coffee. I don't drink tea. I don't drink alcohol. So I have water. And if I have low electrolytes, I'll drink some orange Gatorade, but that's the only drink besides. And then I drink up to 2 Dr. Peppers a day.
Oh, Dr. Pepper's good.
Yes.
There's plums in there.
There's not plums in Dr. Pepper.
Well, that was part of the original formula. It's plum. It's fake plum flavoring now.
It's fake, right? But I don't eat a lot of vegetables, and I was a vegetarian for 26 years. But getting my Viome back, I saw that those were a lot of the cause. Like people say, tomatoes are so good for you, and we have them in all these forms on pizza and salad. Not salad. Well, yeah, people put tomatoes on salad. But pizza, salad, spaghetti, lasagna, like there's tomatoes everywhere. And tomatoes actually, according to my Viome, but I knew before my Viome testing, I get kidney stones from tomatoes. Mm. And so I was having kidney stones, sometimes 2 at a time, multiple times a year.
Wow.
And turns out tomatoes and pistachios. I loved pistachios. I would just buy them by the big bag at Costco and just sit there and eat them. And turns out that was part of the kidney stone troubles. Now I have maybe 1 every 3 or 4 years.
Do you mind my asking, are you experiencing pain right now? Is it just part of your 24/7?
It is. However, I don't do opiates. I used to do opiates. I found that there's other treatments that work better for me, including IV ketamine infusions. So that is what I used to help control my pain. I was living at an 8, 9, 10 where I was passing out, vomiting consistently and chronically, was on nausea medications, cancer level nausea medications from the vomiting. And now I do ketamine infusions 8 days, but they're 2 days each, 4 times a year. And that keeps my pain levels very low. So I still feel the burning pain. As it gets worse, my body gets dystonia where it locks up. And I know it's time for another infusion. Now if I can stay on a clockwork schedule, it keeps me going smoother through the year than if I try to like hold out and wait till I just can't take it anymore. When the pain gets up to an 8 consistently, it's like I can't think, I can't process, I can't really move too much or too well. So I try to stay on my schedule, and I actually go out of state to get treatment so that I keep it consistent.
So with all of this challenge around pain in your body, one of the things I've noticed as we researched this interview was that you are contributing to society at a very high level. So when you make the most of your life, you really want to make it count. Yes.
I had a near-death experience, and I saw that what matters in life is human connection. And I'm here on earth to be a cheerleader. I always thought God meant, because I believe I got this message when I was 4, to be a cheerleader. Right? And so I thought
literally.
Right, literally. I took it literally, like I'm going to do what the girls on the field are doing. And I made that my career. I had my own cheer and dance training company. I coached at a university. And I found that God sent me pebbles and then rocks. And then when I wasn't listening, he threw boulders in my life. And I had to stop and reassess and negotiate and talk to him and say, what am I supposed to be doing? I believe my purpose on earth is to be a to be a cheerleader. But how I do it is up to me. God gives us free will, I believe. Not everybody believes, but that's what I believe. And so I believe my purpose is to cheer people to and through whatever they're going through. And I do that by being a light in his light and doing what I can on earth to better society, better humanity, and equip people with hope. So I say I'm a cheerleader of hope. And I am doing it myself. Living life by it. I mean, living my life to the fullest that I can in each moment. I give myself grace. for the bad moments and the times I can't get out of bed or that I have to use a tool like a wheelchair or a walker or scooter or cane. And I live each moment to the fullest, and I stopped thinking in 24 hours and started thinking in moments. Is this a good moment or a bad moment? How do I make the best through the good or the bad?
What do you find around the path of a young woman who chooses the cheerleader path? And there's several pitfalls that go with that. One is the ogling of men and the male gaze, and then also the kind of condescension around the intellectual capacity of someone like that. How did you experience those things, and how did you overcome them?
I didn't care about the guys. I really was there to perform, and I literally thought I'm supposed to be a cheerleader. So it was about being a cheerleader. God did give me with looks, and not that was a talent he gave me. He didn't give me with health. So we all have our challenges and struggles, but I could care less if someone thinks I'm pretty. I have my own self-worth and confidence, and that is skills that I learned through cheerleading. So it didn't really matter to me. I looked for the person who was my best fit, and my husband now is a very strong Christian man, and we were equally yoked, and that's what brought us together and helps make our marriage strong, is the fact that we both had that strong faith. And he's cute and I'm pretty, but that doesn't mean that that's what we were looking for.
Well, you are Ken and Barbie, so that's going to be a given.
Yes. And I took that also as a sign from God. I started paying attention to his pebbles, and I met him when I was at my sickest in life.
Wow.
And I said, you know, I'm not interested. And God laughed and said, here's Ken. And he was my new neighbor. I moved to Arizona for medical treatment, and he's my new neighbor, and his name is Ken, and it goes with Barbie. And I hired him initially to drive me to and from physical therapy and doctor appointments and surgeries. And we ended up falling in love at the worst part of my life. Wow. When I, at that moment, at that time, had lost all my self-worth because I thought I was supposed to be this physical cheerleader the rest of my life. And I was going through the process of discovering, oh no, God meant be a cheerleader, meaning take people to and through their challenges, not necessarily go perform. So physically perform. So the other part of your question, I grew up with a learning disability. So when other people were out being social, again, I keep having these social distancing issues with food and intellectually. I grew up with a learning disability, and so instead of going out on the PE, all the swing sets and slides and fun things where you run around and do the merry-go-round, I was in a special class learning how to read and learning how to do math and doing extra schoolwork. And I went to summer school every summer and learned how to learn, which made me a better adult. And so I didn't get that playtime. So I didn't have to necessarily worry about what the boys are thinking. I went from school and having these extra learning sessions to going to cheerleading practice and learning how to be a good person, good stunter, and doing teamwork and lifting each other up, and how strength can come in groups, and how you have to be strong on your own before you're strong with your team. And all of those life skills that you learn being an athlete. So it also, taught me to be physical doing the cheerleading, but there wasn't a lot of boys around till college. But it taught me a lot. It also taught me, having a learning disability taught me, don't just get stuck on one plan. There's a million ways to accomplish something. If it's not working out, if it's not the right thing, try it another way. Or take the signs. If it's like pebbles and God's leading you on a path and you keep trying to stray off of it because you want to go do this other thing, try paying attention to those pebbles, because when they turn to rocks, it starts hurting. When it turns to a boulder, it's going to stop you whether you choose to stop or not.
That's actually kind of beautiful. It's like we will eventually fall in with the divine regardless.
Yes, I believe. I know not everybody believes, but that's what I believe. So that's how I live my life.
Right. Well, we always, as you say, I too believe in free will. So we can put it off as long as we want.
Right.
You know what? We have to have free will because there's no other choice.
There you go.
Hey, wait a minute here.
That's awesome.
You tricked us.
That's funny.
One aspect of your politics, if it's okay, that
Sure.
I'm really curious about, because I have a lot of friends who came from Nicaragua and El Salvador and came fleeing, horrible political persecution and things going on down there. And then my mother at 75 ended up moving to Nicaragua.
Ooh.
And because she loved the coast and she lived in Southern California and knew she couldn't really afford that. So she moved down there and it was her home from 75 until she passed away around 83 years old, 84 maybe. So with what you're talking about, uplifting and pain and these elements of humanity that are very humane, for me personally, when I hear about border patrol and the border control, it's very harsh. And I'm wondering, what's the humanity in your train of thought with that political aspect?
I am from Thailand. You would not have guessed.
No.
So because I'm from another country, and when I was 12, I got to go, and my sister's also from Thailand, and I got to go in front of a judge in Washington, D.C., and with my sister and swear to be a good American. And I had dual citizenship. My sister had Thai citizenship, and we became full Americans. And at 12, I took that as something that really meant something to me. And my dad also had a degree in history. Both of my parents were officers in the U.S. Army. And my mom is buried in Arlington National Cemetery. Also, I believe that we have to, when we're on Earth, we have to also not just abide by God's law, but he also asks us to abide by the law of the land. This is Rome, do as the Romans. So I'm not quoting the Bible exactly. I don't do that.
Render under Caesar.
Right. Understood.
But without borders, you don't have a country. I'm an immigrant. My sister's an immigrant. I believe that immigrants should come to America. But I also know that there's a process. I also know it works. My sister's husband is Jamaican, Canadian, and which is actually under British rule. So however you want to look at that. He was not American. He's in America now. He's on a green card. He's looking to become an American citizen. It is possible to come to America and do it legally. I think anybody who is not American and comes through illegally starts off on an illegal act. And anything that they do after that is going to be based on an illegal act. I think if they go back to wherever they were and they apply to come the proper way, it might take longer. God didn't say he's just going to give us everything. We have to do hard things. I've done hard things. People can do hard things. Do it the right way and you have a chance to come back. But if you wait and you have to get deported, you should not earn a chance to come back to America. So I'm not saying that they should die. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they shouldn't start off by breaking the law. And if they do start off by breaking the law, there should be consequences. To me, my consequence is leave America. And if you, especially if you're doing additional law breaking to a level of a misdemeanor or a felony, it should definitely be you go back to your own country. And it could even be after you serve time here for the crimes you've committed. But I believe that if without borders, you don't have a country. I know some people that don't want borders anywhere in the world. We need to be global citizens, they believe, and be able to go anywhere. But that's not how our world is set up. And I believe that if we're going to be the United States of America and we have borders, then we need to enforce our laws, all the laws. And if they're bad laws, we need to get rid of them. And if it's bad regulations, we need to get rid of them. But until they're gone or until it's not a rule or regulation, it should be enforced for Americans as well as anybody else who comes here legally or illegally. And
so can we parse this a little more nuanced?
Yes.
There's this aspect of fleeing tyranny that puts a kind of time pressure on someone who may not have access to the kinds of procedural leverage they need to overcome the fear of being harmed or being persecuted. And so what does faith teach you about mercy and the idea of asylum during the process?
I think that that's part of the rules and regulations that need to be corrected and worked on. It is something that I'm sad that people are going through that. But at the same time, there's still laws and regulations. Why have laws and regulations if we're not planning to follow through with them and live with them? Why can't they rape, murder, and do all of these things if we're not going to follow our laws because their country's not following their laws?
Yeah, my question was more about the innocents who are trying to get away from something harmful. And right. There's this gray area where
but they
someone's
could go
trying to seek sanctuary.
Right.
How would you modify our current situation to afford those people the opportunity to seek sanctuary?
So they have the ability to flee their country and go into the next safest country. They have the ability to move into a country that is safer. It doesn't have to be America. There are other safe countries around the world. Go there. It doesn't have to be America to save the whole world. We're not even saving our own people. I mean, look what's happening. We gave all this money to Ukraine, and we can't even help the people who just were devastated in our own country in the latest hurricane.
Right. Or we're not.
I'm going to bring this up again. There's this aspect of what it means to be charitable and have mercy that is outside of the laws of men, in a sense, that's paramount to. And so what I'm asking you about isn't necessarily what you're answering with. So that's why I'm asking again, because I believe that we're of the same heart on this issue, and that the element of someone being at my door who's being persecuted, there's kind of a moral paramount calling of me to do something. And I agree with your premise. And my curiosity is about where do we adjust what's currently happening to be more effective in the way that in the situation I'm describing, because I have no counsel for MS-13 or criminals coming across the border. I'm talking about young girls and mothers who are fleeing, their gang violence in their communities and things like that.
We have gang violence here as well. But if you go back to, they can go to the next closest country to them. They don't have to come to America. So if they're coming through Mexico, stay in Mexico. I've been to Mexico. It's a beautiful country. People want to go to other countries on the other side of the world. Go to the next closest country. Our law says that's what they're supposed to do. If they want to come to America, they can do it in a more proper way. We also have asylum laws. Follow the asylum laws. They're not doing that. Part of that law. And if we want that law changed, then we go and change that law. But we can't say they're knocking on our door. They already knocked on Mexico's door. In most of the cases, the people coming through the Mexican border that are coming from Mexico to come to the United States to help serve their families in Mexico, but also help the United States, which I believe that they do. They already have been coming and going. They already have for years. Since I was a child, they've been coming and helping in the harvest up in Washington State. When I was coaching at Washington State University, the Mexicans would come in, they would be there, their children would go to school with the other children. And at the end of harvest, they would all get on a bus and go back to Mexico. And not all, I said all, most would go back to Mexico and live there the rest of the year. And then they would come back, kind of like snowbirds come to Arizona for the winters, so that they don't have to have the harsh winters. There's correct ways to do it that we've had for years that can be done properly. And there's illegal, incorrect ways of doing it. But there's asylum laws. Follow the law. Follow the law. And we will get working on it. Follow the law, and you can get help in the country that you go into, so that it doesn't overwhelm our resources. I can tell you, my father-in-law, he passed away during COVID. He was going through throat cancer. He's in the VA system. He kept getting his doctor appointments postponed. He finally went in person. He would get a postcard in the mail, postpone. He's going through cancer. He should we not have compassion for him? He's supposed to be on our team. He goes in and he says, why does my appointment keep getting postponed? And they said, we're not, the VA in Arizona, we're not allowed to talk about it. They said, look around the waiting room. And it's filled with people who are not from the United States, not speaking English. You can speak, if you can speak multiple languages, God bless you. I think that's a really cool thing. I can't do that. However, it's people who are getting treated in our federal system, taking resources away from our people who served our country, who fought for our freedoms. Here in Arizona, we have 5,000 primary care doctors shortage. We have 2,500 nurses shortage and 2,500 medical tech shortage here in our state. And we're overwhelmed. Our system is overwhelmed. We have to stop the people coming over the border so that we can get our own self taken care of. Just like when you're on an airplane, you have to put your own oxygen on even before you put your child's oxygen on them. You have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your team. And new people can join the team. That's cool. That's great. It's open. However, it has to be done correctly so that we can help support our society, help humanity, and do it effectively. We cannot do that if it's just a free-for-all. Open borders, doesn't matter what the rule of law is. And the people who are paying into the system here in my district, LD7, we have 4 counties. The last 4 years, we've had representatives who don't live in my county. They live in one of the other 3 counties. They've gotten $40 million. We've paid in, Pinal County residents have paid in to the system. They gave the whole $40 million in resources to mostly one county. A little bit went to another county. The other 2 counties, we got 0. All 4 of us paid in. We get none of those resources. It should have been based on population and given back to the community to help with all of our roads and all of our community building. But it didn't happen. Now, for 2 more years, we have representatives that are not from Pinal County, and the county they live in has already said, we're going to be selfish. They plan on taking all of that money once again, yet we're still required to pay in and assist. That's part of living in the land of America. You follow the laws and the rules and you pay your taxes in, yet how it's being dispersed is not being done in a fair process, I believe. And so the same thing happens. We have to get people in that will make the difference so that it will get dispersed in ways that make sense for people to not get overlooked, people on our team. We're all 4 in the same county. We're all on that same team, but counties and people that are paying in are getting overlooked. It's not right. Just like people coming over the border, it's not right. And that's why I feel like it's my job to cheer people to and through what they're going through, the answer just might be, it's going to take hard work and it's going to take people to stand up and do the right thing. But there's still laws and rules that are in place. And if we want to change it, we have to change the laws and rules.
One of the things I want to acknowledge about your record is that your willingness to step into the arena of public service, because so many people want to sit back and throw stones and won't step up to the plate and try to make an impact. And I think that's really important to emphasize, because even in the face of the various challenges you've described so far in this discussion, you continue to show up with this idea of service. You have a core moral belief system that says, I can do more. And I just think it's important that we acknowledge that. And then I have a secondary question. How do we stop being so divided in our own country against each other?
Start seeing people as human. Don't say, like, I'm from Thailand. You don't look at me and say, I'm from Thailand, right? Look at people as the human that they are and treat each other with mutual respect until the person doesn't earn their respect, until they lose that respect, until they don't follow societal norms and such. Don't hold somebody else's breaking the law against another person. It's not all the people in all that category. It's that person who made the mistake or did the wrong thing or chose to their free will. Live your life, and this is how I live my life. I don't want to hurt anybody else, and I'm very conscious of what I do. How is this going to impact me? How is it going to impact the people around me? If we could all say, hey, I want to do this, but when I do this, it's going to impact the people around me. How positively or negatively is that going to affect people? Maybe I shouldn't do the thing that I want to do because it's negatively going to affect somebody else. And the service comes from my parents. My parents served our country, and both of my parents, well, one, I physically wouldn't be able to serve, but they told my older brother, he's healthy. He was law enforcement for over 20 years. My sister, my younger brother, and I all have autoimmune diseases, and we would not qualify for the military, but they still said it's important to still serve. It's important to still do what you can do. And sometimes it's beyond the boundaries. So sometimes test your boundaries to see what you really can do. But every year between Thanksgiving and Christmas, my family did a family project and we served the community. It could be singing, choir, knocking doors and singing at people's houses, or it could be going and physically serving food at a food bank, or going and spending time at a nursing home. Every year we all got to all voted and decided this is the activity for this year, and we would do it during that month. And when I got sick, it was the same year my stepsister passed away, and of the same disease. And we were going through, what do we do? And my older brother said, hey, if Barbie's having trouble getting treatment, we should make sure that other people aren't having trouble. And my dad said, if we're going to do that, that's not a 1 month project. That's a nonprofit project. This can be bigger than we think. And all of us have to be on board, including my husband. He was one of the founders. And all of us said, okay, let's do it. And 3 months later, we had a 501c3 nonprofit. And my parents funded most of it until they passed away. And we went out and we served, and we grew from a tiny little family nonprofit into an international pain foundation, and have been serving. So it's really been in my blood to serve and find ways, even if you can't serve in the military, in that aspect of serving, you can serve in your community locally. I belong to the Fraternal Order of the Eagles. I belong to the VFW Auxiliary, to the American Legion. You can find other ways to serve, and you can join a nonprofit, help lift up people. You can just check on your neighbor. That's a form of service. And so it's important to me to have that human connection, and to make sure that you treat people individually based on how you mutually treat and act with each other, so that we can lift each other up, and it will create more unity. But remember, there's unity in community. In the word community, there's the word unity. We don't all have to be the same. We don't have to agree. We don't have to like the same things. I believe you can do what you want to do as long as it doesn't negatively impact another human being. And if it does, maybe you should rethink how you're planning to do or accomplish whatever it is. There's more than one way to accomplish something. So let's find another way so that we're not negatively hurting other people.
Thank you.
Long answer to a short question.
No, it's
Okay.
great. One thing I'm noticing for sure, you're very passionate, and I imagine that energy has helped you to get up out of a wheelchair to,
Yes.
yeah. It's brilliant. I love it.
My heart hurts when I look out across the way we speak to each other in this country. And I'm committed to navigating my own biases and my own lack of insight to understand the people who I might end up in conflict with if I were allowed to myself to be lazy intellectually or spiritually. And that's why I asked the questions the way I did, because at one level we have to be willing to listen, but on another we have to be able to challenge each other effectively. And when I said I appreciate your stepping into the arena of public service, I really meant it, because I think that's a huge part of what we can do. A lot of people want to sit on the sidelines and throw shade at things and don't have the wherewithal to actually do things. Given how much you put into the world as far as solving your own pain and managing your own struggles, and then contributing all this abundant energy you have to helping other people, what's your favorite thing to do for fun?
Just be with my husband. If I could be with him 24 hours a day, I would. I just think we're a great pair. And so whatever we're doing it together. That's the funnest thing.
That's awesome.
And so when he's playing and you're with him and he's playing, what do you guys do to play?
Well, he plays video games and I watch and cheer him on and like, you did good. You beat this level. So, cheering to and through whatever it is you're facing. It could be as minimal as playing a video game. He's a drone pilot. So when he's droning, he has a little tiny viewer, so I can't see anything. I can't even see the drone up in the sky anymore because it's like up there. But still cheering him on through that. But he cheers me on just as hard and just as passionately, and so that's awesome. I have a degree in social psychology because my dad didn't let me get a degree in cheerleading or dance. Oh,
darn it!
He said I couldn't do that for a living, and I was like, "Yeah, I can. Watch." It's divine. God told me. So I chose social psychology, which actually does help me a lot in life. My degree I could have done without, but one of my best things that I learned is the 5 stages of a group in society, life. Every time you go into an area where there's 2 or more people, you're in a group. And every time one person in the group changes, you go through these stages over and over again. So the first stage is forming, coming together. The next stage is storming. That's where most people get stuck. So that's the talk about being intellectual and talking through the differences and challenges that you have. But if you can get through the storm of whatever the situation is, then you norm and you say, okay, these are the rules and laws we're going to live by. And you agree to do that. And then if you can norm, you can perform, which means that you can make a difference and do something as a group and lift up yourselves, lift up society. And then the final aspect is adjourn. And you don't always go through the 5 steps. And sometimes, say a new person comes onto the team, you kind of have to go through those steps over again. And so seeing that and recognizing, especially before algoneurodystrophy, when I was a head coach at Washington State University and running my own cheer and dance training company, I used those 5 stages to help build the team to be the best it could be. And we ended up in the top 5 in the country. I put the whole program together at Washington State University, including athletic scholarships for the cheerleaders and dancers and mascot program. And they're still using the same system I set up when I was setting it up. But I used that formula that I learned taking the classes in social psychology. So for me, that's fun. How do you get the quietest person or the person who is the weakest to be lifted up in the group? And seeing it, knowing the signs and spotting it, and then being able to motivate that person in the way that they need is something that I've come to practice and excel at.
Do you think that I personally see our federal political system as in a wheelchair, and I don't retain a lot of hope that it will get up out of that chair. I'm wondering.
I think it's working. Sorry, I don't think it's working as designed. In healthcare, I think it's working as designed very poorly. You're right. The federal government has some challenges and issues. And I think it's part of the checks and balances that were given at the beginning of the country. And the checks and balances haven't been checked or balanced. And so we're seeing a lot of imbalance and roadblocks and stumbling blocks. And we need to get those fixed and worked on. And we need people who will stand up. You know, I could go into a party and people are drinking or doing drugs or doing the thing. I never went to anything the level of a Diddy party, but I've gone to like a college party, and people are drinking and doing whatever they're doing around me. And I can stand strong in who I am and say, I'm not going to do the wrong thing, even though the people around me are doing the wrong thing. I wish more people could stand up and do the right thing. And I think that a lot of times elected officials may get into that party and go, oh, well, they're drinking excessively. I'm just using that as the metaphor.
Right.
But they're drinking excessively. I'm going to go drink some too. Or they're doing this or they're doing that. I'm going to take mine because they're taking theirs. Instead of, hey, what's best for our country? What can we do?
There's lobbyist money over here. I'm going to go get some lobbyist money too.
Yes. And I, as a nonprofit executive and board member, and I've been a past president, I've said, hey, the money you gave us, you're now trying to tell me what to do with it. And it goes against the mission of the nonprofit. And although it would have been nice to keep the money, I wasn't willing to do the wrong thing. So I gave the money back. Well, and as a congressperson or what have you, I would want more of them to do that. And not, I might take a meeting with a lobbyist, but they couldn't pay me to
compromise your values.
Yes. And not everybody has that standard, or they get in and just this year in Arizona, I saw representatives say, I'm going to vote this way because I need to get reelected. And I am a civilian who has written 7 bills, and have gotten 2 of those bills passed into law. I know it can be done without the title, but I know I could do it faster with the title. So I'm going for the title because I know with the time that I'm given, I will do my absolute best to do the right things, and nobody can buy me. But that's also part of the problem. I'm a good legislator. I know I would be a good legislator. I've done it. I'm not a good candidate because I don't get bought off. And so I brought in the least amount of money for my campaign, but I appeared at all 6 debates. I was the only candidate of 6 to appear at all 6 debates. I went to everybody who asked me to come speak for their events or whatever it was, community or civic organization or what have you. I went 10,000 square miles. I went to every single one I was invited to, but most of them shut the door and didn't want to hear from me for the first 3 months. They didn't think I would get enough signatures to get on the ballot. But you know what? It takes hard work. And I walked and I knocked doors, and my husband went with me, and we knocked and we knocked and knocked and knocked until my feet were literally bleeding. and still walked and got the signatures. And I got the third highest number of signatures. 5 opponents had 2 years to get their signatures. I got the third highest number of signatures out of 6 people who had more time than me. And I had 3 months and did that well.
Wow.
They didn't think I would do that well. So
are you going to still continue this political venture?
Yes. Adventure.
Yeah.
I am. Like I said, I believe I'm the right legislator, even if it's only for one term, but I believe when I get in and I do a great job and people see that I'm actually serving my district, that they will continue to have me for up to 8 years, which is the term limit. And I also believe in term limits. And so but if they don't, I will still work on legislation. And I believe that I will drop my papers on November 6th to run again. And that, I believe I'm the right person. So yes, I will continue the journey. You did say it was hard and you did thank me for stepping up. It is hard to run for office. I had a guy tell me he was coming over to my house with a gun. And I said, and this is supposed to be someone on my team. And I said, okay. And I said, okay, I'll meet you on the porch with one of mine.
That's the thing. It's like the people I see in politics, it is brutal. It is.
Yes. And getting signatures, my husband knocked on a door. Well, actually, he didn't knock on the door. The guy was in his driveway and we were knocking doors. And he went 2 houses ahead of me. And a guy, he was a Democrat, and he started screaming and cussing. And he was raking his rocks. We do that in Arizona. and he starts coming at my husband with his rake and raising his voice and raising his blood pressure. And my husband was staying monotone and he wasn't trying to trigger him. He literally was trying to get signatures so that I had a chance to be on the ballot, to be a choice. It wasn't about this side or that side. It was about everybody deserves a chance to get onto the ballot. I'm following the process. This is part of the process. Yeah. But we didn't get his signature. So we got it from both sides. Those are just 2 of the stories. But we got it from both sides of people that are supposed to be on my team, people on the other side. But at the same time, I still am here for a purpose. So I will continue to do what I need to do and continue to knock doors and continue to meet the community. One of my favorite parts, talk about fun, knocking doors and getting to say, hi, I'm Barbie. I'm running for office. What are your pain points? And actually being able to help some people on the spot, some people through, sending them further resources. Hey, there is a fix for that. Here, let me send you this resource. Or as the legislator, that's something I would like to tackle. Like with the school board or with ESAs or different challenges outside of the healthcare field where I'm an expert, different challenges that I got to go and learn and research and study that are impacting the people who live in my district, and water rights and electricity challenges that we're having and many different things. So it opened my eyes, and I got to see the pain points of the people that I'm supposed to be serving once I'm in. And that really helped me grow as a person. So I feel like it was all for a purpose. And whether I win or lose, I'm still going to continue. I already have 2 bills that I'm working on in the upcoming legislative session, even though I didn't win this time. One of the bills will be run by one of the people who beat me. I went to him and said, hey, it's a bill. It's not going to affect me. It's going to affect about 250,000 Arizonans that live in pain for specific treatment, but it doesn't help me. But this bill needs passed, and will you be willing to take it forward? And he doesn't normally do healthcare bills, but he sees I'm an expert in healthcare, and he said, yeah, he read the bill and he said, this is really good. I said, I know. And he said, and he said, okay, yeah, I'll take this bill forward for you. So, and even if you don't win, that doesn't mean stop helping the world. It means find another way. So I'm finding other ways, but I do also believe that I would be a good legislator. So I'm going to continue trying for that while I still work these other areas. We only have so much time on earth, so I want to make impact.
In your political experience, have you found allies in the like that were Democrats where they said, oh, wow, that's actually a good idea?
Yes, my second bill. I want to have a rare disease advocacy council, and I took my bill to Republicans in the last session, and none of them would sponsor it. And it turns out it was because they wanted the two guys who won to win, and they didn't want to give me another political win as a civilian because it shows that I can get things done. So a Democrat took my bill forward and got it through the House, and it went on to the Senate, and instead of going to the Health Committee, which was going to probably pass it, they told me they were, it got put into the Government Committee and it got stopped. Again, it got stopped because a Republican didn't want me to have the win over another Republican. So even though it would help people, 1 in 10 Arizonans living with a rare disease, and had no fiscal attachment of money to it, it was a service board without pay for the people that serve on the board, but it helps rare disease patients. They stopped the bill and wouldn't even hear it. So you have to find ways. And like I said, I learned as a child, if A doesn't work, then you go to B, C, D, E, F. You might end up with idea AZ down the line. But if you know it's the right idea, you find a way to keep bringing it forward. So we're going to do that one again this year as well.
I have 2 things that I want to talk about before we wrap this up.
Yep.
One of which is the question we generally always ask every guest, but another is a little bit more volatile and maybe more controversial. But I think it's important for us to have these difficult discussions as an American family.
Yes.
So I particularly don't like the presidential candidates myself, either one of them, even though I'm a Democrat. But I dislike one more than the other because I feel this man has betrayed our country at a high level. And I'm wondering what you might say about candidate Trump and how you perceive his indiscretions as a man, his activities on January 6th, and what you think of the idea of massive voter fraud as whether it's a viable thing or not.
I'll start with the last part. Voter fraud, I believe, is there. We've had voter fraud since before I was born. So do I believe in voter fraud? Yes. There's been cases here in Arizona, not very many because a lot of people don't come forward. My sister was in Virginia, went to vote, and they tried to hand her a Democrat registration based on the color of her skin. And she was like, no, sorry. I want the other one. I'm registered the other way. So is there voter fraud, and is there people trying to manipulate the system and people not paying attention? Yes. I don't believe it's one particular way. I don't believe it was like this happened and this is what the outcome. I believe that it's a multi-pronged approach and many different people are doing it in many different ways. So, yeah, I believe there's been voter fraud since before I was born. When I say I know, like age 4 when I had consciousness. As far as who the president should be, I would say think we've seen both administrations now or something similar, both leaders. And so were you better off under this one or were you better off under that one? Look and decide and vote for the person who you feel is best representative of when you were doing the best. And I mean health-wise, financially, all the aspects of social, economic, bioscience. Who were you doing the best under? And it's going to be different for every human. So make your choice that's right for you. And as an American, cast your vote for the person who you feel has done the best job. Oops. Feel that has done the best job. I take the personalities out of it. For me,
does being a convicted felon constitute a personality trait or a criminal trait?
I've met so many convicted felons knocking on doors and asking people, to vote. I don't say vote this way or vote that way, except for vote for me when I was running. But I think that I met felons, and I believe that once you go to jail and you've served your time and you've been released, that you should be, or you've finished your court case or whatever it is, you should be able to vote again. So, with January 6th, hopefully I answered that. I can keep talking about that, but I want to try to get to all the points.
Thank you.
With January 6th, my sister lives about, I don't want to give her location away. She lives in Virginia near DC. I graduated from George Mason University. So in the vicinity of DC. And we've since childhood gone down to DC a lot. So my insider view of January 6th and what's happened and what the media shows versus people's accounts that were on the actual land or nearby that actually could attest to pallets of bricks being brought in for non-construction areas, things like that. It makes me not trust the mainstream media and go with the evidence I can see versus the evidence that I hear. So I have conflicting opinions. I did watch on TV as Ashley Babbitt, I think is how you say her name, was shot. My brother being a former, he's a retired police officer. You don't shoot unless you can actually see the other person has a weapon. He said she had a backpack on in his original statement. So he didn't see a weapon, but she might've had a weapon in her backpack. That's the officer's words. And I am still questioning why he shot. I also have talked to people who said they opened up the gates for them to walk in and then said they didn't, or opened up the door and then said they didn't. I have gone to the Capitol to testify. I've had special passes to get to go on the gallery floor and do behind the scenes tours. So I kind of know a little bit more about the pictures and the videos and what's going on because I physically have been there and seen and in talking to people, I didn't see the same violence. I know a police officer died from a heart attack, I believe, a couple of days later that was serving during January 6th, but I have not seen evidence that convinced me one way or another. And I would have to look at it individually, case by case by case of thousands of people who were down at that area at the same time. And I know that there was good people with good intentions. There also are always bad actors in a situation that's so much stress.
Well, can I ask the question a different way?
Yeah.
Because I think the answer you've given me is really great, and I'm very appreciative. The question I want to ask is the peaceful transfer of power during the slate of electors, is it appropriate for the U.S. citizens to break into the Capitol to try and disrupt that?
I don't believe they broke in, but I don't believe breaking in would be a proper act. But I also have seen evidence.
You would consider it an unlawful act to try to disrupt the proceedings of Congress by violent means?
I've seen people disrupt Congress for years now. They come in, there's people that put, I know
all kinds of different people from all sides of the aisle
that do it and are never there's people all the time that try to disrupt, like the guy who pulled the fire alarm, or the people who wear the capes over their head and walk through. They're silent. They're still trying to disrupt. They're still taking the time away from the civilian who came in to testify on any particular issue, them walking through and past the person that's trying to testify and say their testimony is disruption. So all of it is wrong. But at the same time, we have the First Amendment. So yeah, it's wrong to do that, but it's been done for so long and nobody's been held accountable for so long on any side, that why are we starting to hold one side accountable when you don't, or individuals on one side, when you don't hold, it needs to be equal justice. And if we're going to follow a law that's on the books, just like I believe we should follow a border law, but we're not following the border law. So now all these people are coming in, they're getting our resources. It goes back to, we need to follow the laws, and we can't just go, okay, today we're going to follow them. We need to say, okay, we didn't follow the laws, but we're going to give you this notice as a boom, we're following the laws. You can't go, oh, all these people, Democrats and Republicans and Independents and Libertarian and Green Party and all the parties out there are not following the law. We're going to now say, because enough people on one side didn't or did, we're going to now do something about this. We need to have been following it for all the time. Just like if you have a border, you follow the border law. If you have a don't rape people law, you don't rape people. But people still do these acts. And then you give nothing to 100,000 people who have been doing it for years. And then, then all of a sudden one day you say, okay, today's the day. This is the law in the books. Now we're going to follow it. You can't give justice and equity in that manner. You just can't do it.
Got it. I really appreciate the nuance.
There's a difference between, I said misdemeanors and felonies. There's a difference between civil and criminal. So keep that in mind. And also, I've been raped. And I know that that's a really harsh. I just threw that out there. It's been, I was young, but it's been some time. I've been through counseling. I addressed it and faced it, and I've moved forward. I'm 52 now, so I also know the stages that you go through and how you respond. And a friend of the person who raped me contacted me on Facebook and was like, oh, remember when such and such happened, and gave a call back to that night? And I'm like, yeah, that was a rape, and called it out. And he said, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I believe that the person who Trump says he never met in a store who won a civil conviction on rape, it wasn't rape. I don't believe that is the experience. It could be something else, but that's not what she took forward. And also, rape isn't fun. Even though I've dealt with it, it's not something I would want for myself or any other human being. So, but I also, listening as a victim and not hearing, having her say, rape is fun, or sex. Sorry, she didn't say fun. She said sexy. Rape is sexy. It's not sexy either. It's a horrifying, terrifying, violent experience to go through.
Are you now referring to the woman who accused Trump?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm saying that her verbiage that she chose was very odd, in my opinion, as a rape survivor. And so it makes me question, although she got a civil judgment against Trump, it makes me as an actual survivor evidence and proof, and the physical trauma that I went through, it makes me say, why did she choose to go forward on calling it something that even what she described wasn't an actual rape, and it was not sexy.
Yeah.
Even if the guy that raped you was cute for some reason that you thought he was before it happened, not that I think that in my case, but even if, it's still not an invitation for it being called sexy in any way. So that hurts me as the rape victim, or survivor, or whatever I am now. You attribute whatever word you want. When you have to look at each individual situation, but in no rape case of myself and many other rape survivors that I've spoken to through my degree in psychology or just as an advocate, she's the only one that has ever described it as something that was sexy.
Got it. I want to just thank you for your honesty, your transparency, and your vulnerability in what you've shared. This whole time, I've felt your commitment to authenticity and your primary convictions. I feel a lot of gratitude around all of the things that you've shared. And I'm just kind of, right now, I'm feeling like a lot of complex feelings about what you've just said in the last part of the show. And I think it's really important that we listen to women, particularly around this, especially even out of the context of the original question I asked you. You know, it's not about Trump now. It's not about them in particular. It's about this idea of violence against women, right? And then at the beginning of the interview, we talked about, I asked you about men and being a cheerleader and whether and you were like so impervious to it. And I had no idea that we would land here. So thank you for sharing all of that with us. And before we get to our last question, is there anything else that you want to share? Is there anything about this experience that you've had with us that you want the audience to know or that you want Greg and I to know?
I'm going to end with something I usually end with. And even though we've been talking more on the political side, the health advocate side in me, I want people to know that there's great reason for hope because there is help. All you have to do is reach out and seek it. And keep going, keep moving to and through whatever your challenges are. It's possible to come out the other side and be something that is value to society and humanity. So keep going. Forward, always forward.
The next question is really hard considering the level of depth and intensity we've been through, but that's part of why we have this question.
Okay. Why are you laughing, Greg?
It's like a little aperitif at the end of the meal.
It's such a silly thing, but it's tradition.
Okay.
Go ahead, Greg.
All right. Eminem or Foo Fighters?
As singers? I like all music, so I could take or leave both. If you put on music, I'm going to dance, and even if I physically can't dance, I will be dancing in my heart and in my mind. So I will take either one.
All right, that was beautiful.
Awesome. Well, it's been an amazing conversation, Barbie. Thank you so much for your commitment to the people of Arizona and to the people of this country and your willingness to fight for pain reduction and a better world. I feel so enriched by your enthusiasm and inspired.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I'm also fighting for individualized care. We all don't need to be treated as if we're all equal. We are where we are, but we need to be treated individually as we present in front of our doctor, and we need to get the government out of our healthcare system.
Recording stopped.